Robert Harrison adjusted his silk tie as he walked through the automatic doors of the neighborhood grocery store on Maple Street. The familiar hum of fluorescent lights and the soft muzak playing overhead reminded him of simpler times when he used to shop with his late wife, Margaret. At 62, Robert had built a successful business empire from nothing, but he rarely forgot where he came from. His gray hair was neatly combed and his expensive suit spoke of success, yet his eyes held a gentleness that money could never buy. Today, he was picking up a few items for his empty house that felt too quiet since Margaret had passed 2 years ago. The store was busier than usual. For a Tuesday afternoon, families with children navigated the aisles. While elderly couples moved slowly through their weekly routines, Robert found comfort in the ordinary rhythm of everyday life. It reminded him that beneath all the business meetings and financial reports, people were just trying to take care of their loved ones. As he made his way toward the dairy section, Robert noticed a young woman with dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She was wearing a forest green sweater that had seen better days, and she carried a baby close to her chest while a little girl with blonde curls stood beside her. The child was maybe 5 years old, wearing a brown dress with a white collar that looked handmade. The woman was Sarah Matthews, and she was having the kind of day that tests a mother's heart. Her baby son, David, was only 3 months old and had been fussy all morning. Her daughter Emma had been patient, but Sarah could see the tiredness in her small face. They had come to the store for necessities, but Sarah's wallet held barely enough for the basics. Robert watched from a respectful distance as Sarah carefully examined prices on everything she put in her cart. Her movements were deliberate and thoughtful. Each item was considered twice before being added to her small collection. She compared brands and looked for sales tags with the practiced eye of someone who had learned to stretch every dollar. When they reached the baby formula aisle, Sarah's steps slowed. She picked up a container of infant formula and held it for a long moment. Her baby stirred in her arms, and she gently bounced him while reading the price tag. Emma looked up at her mother with those trusting eyes that children have before they understand that money can be scarce. Sarah's hand trembled slightly as she placed the formula in her cart alongside a loaf of bread, some eggs, and a small container of milk for Emma. The cart looked sparse, but Robert could see it represented careful planning and difficult choices. He remembered his own mother making similar decisions when he was young after his father had left them. At the checkout line, Sarah's face grew pale as the cashier scanned her items. The total came to more than she had expected. The young cashier was patient and kind, but rules were rules. When Sarah saw the final amount, she closed her eyes for just a moment, gathering courage for what she had to do. "I'm sorry," Sarah said softly to the cashier, whose name tag read Jennifer. "I need to put back the formula." Jennifer was maybe 19. With kind eyes that showed she understood these situations happened more often than people like to admit. "Of course, honey, take your time." Sarah lifted the container of formula from her bag where she had already started to place her groceries. Her baby chose that moment to cry, as if he somehow knew what was happening. Emma tugged gently on her mother's sweater. "Mama is the baby." Hungry, Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "He'll be okay." "Sweetie, Mama will figure something out," Robert felt, and something stir in his chest. It was the same feeling he used to get when Margaret would point out someone who needed help but was too proud to ask. She always had an eye for quiet struggles and had taught him that the most meaningful kindness often happened without fanfare. As Sarah walked away from the checkout counter with her reduced groceries, Robert approached Jennifer. He kept his voice low so Sarah wouldn't hear from where she was gathering her things near the exit. "The formula that young lady had to put back," Robert said. "I'd like to pay for it. Could you set it aside for me?" Jennifer smiled the kind of smile that comes from seeing goodness in the world. "Of course, sir. That's really nice of you. Could you also add a few more containers? And maybe some baby clothes if you have them?" size newborn to 3 months, and some groceries. A gift card, perhaps? Jennifer's eyes widened. How much would you like on the gift card? Robert thought about his own childhood, about Margaret's gentle wisdom, and about the empty house waiting for him. Make it $500, and could you help me gather some things a young family might need? Diapers, baby food, some toys for the little girl. Nothing too fancy, just thoughtful, as Jennifer helped him select items. Robert watched Sarah through the store windows. She was loading her few groceries into an older sedan that had seen better days. Emma was helping by carrying the lightest items and chattering cheerfully despite the circumstances. The baby had calmed down and was sleeping against his mother's shoulder. 20 minutes later, Robert had assembled what Margaret would have called a proper care package. Jennifer helped him load everything into his car and gave him Sarah's receipt, so he could find out where she lived. The address was in a neighborhood Robert knew had been struggling since the factory closed 3 years ago. The drive to Sarah's apartment took him through parts of town he rarely visited anymore. Modest homes, with well-tended gardens lined the streets. Children played on front porches while their parents watched from nearby chairs. It reminded Robert of the neighborhood where he had grown up, where people looked out for each other because everyone understood what it meant to struggle. Sarah's apartment building was clean but aging. The parking lot had cracks that spoke of deferred maintenance, but someone had planted flowers in small beds near the entrance. Robert could see that people who lived here took pride in their home even if they couldn't afford luxury. He carried the bags to the front door of apartment 2B and took a deep breath before knocking. Sarah opened the door, still wearing her green sweater, but now with a small spit-up stain on the shoulder that she hadn't had time to change. "Yes," she said cautiously. Holding the baby close, Emma appeared beside her mother, curious about the visitor. "I'm Robert Harrison," he said gently. "I was in the store earlier, and I noticed you had to make some difficult choices. I hope you don't mind, but I wanted to help." Sarah's face showed confusion, then recognition, and finally a mixture of embarrassment and gratitude. "Oh, sir, you don't need to. I mean, we're managing just fine." Robert smiled. The same smile he used to give Margaret when she was being stubborn about accepting help. "I'm sure you are. But sometimes we all need a little support. And honestly, it would mean a lot to me if you'd let me share what I have." Emma tugged on her mother's sweater. "Mama, he has bags. Is it presents?" Robert knelt down to Emma's level. "Well, hello there, young lady. I do have some things here. If your mama says it's okay, some of it might be for you and some for your baby brother." Sarah's eyes filled. With tears she was trying not to shed. "Sir, I don't know what to say. This is incredibly kind, but I can't accept charity." "It's not charity," Robert said, standing up slowly. "It's neighbors helping neighbors. My wife, Margaret, used to say that kindness isn't about what we can afford to give. It's about what we can afford to keep to ourselves." Something in his voice made Sarah step back and invite him in. The apartment was small but immaculate. A few toys were scattered on the living room floor, and baby blankets were folded neatly on the couch. Everything was clean and organized despite the obvious financial constraints. "Your wife sounds like she was a wise woman," Sarah said as she settled the baby in his carrier. "She was," Robert replied. "She passed 2 years ago, but she taught me that the best way to honor someone's memory is to keep doing the things they would have done." As Robert brought in the bags, Sarah's composure finally broke. She sat down heavily on the couch and let the tears come. Emma immediately went to her mother's side with the instinctive comfort that children provide. "I'm so tired," Sarah whispered. "I try so hard to do everything right for them, but some days I feel like I'm failing." Robert sat down in the chair across from her and spoke with the gentle authority of someone who had lived through his own struggles. "You're not failing, Sarah. You're doing exactly what mothers have always done. You're making impossible choices and somehow making it work. That takes more strength than most people will ever know. Emma had discovered the bag with toys and was carefully examining a small stuffed rabbit. "Mama, look, it's so soft. What do you say?" "Emma," Sarah managed through her tears. "Thank you, Mr. Robert," Emma said solemnly. "Do you have little girls, too?" Robert's heart squeezed. "No, sweetheart, I don't. But I had a wonderful wife who would have loved to meet you and your brother." Over the next hour, Robert learned Sarah's story. She had been married to a good man who died in a construction accident when she was 6 months pregnant. The insurance settlement had helped for a while, but medical bills and daily expenses had slowly eaten away at their savings. She was trying to finish her nursing degree through online classes while caring for 2 children, but money was always tight. Sarah learned that Robert had built his business from nothing after his own father had abandoned their family when Robert was 7. His mother had worked multiple jobs to keep them afloat, and he had never forgotten the kindness of neighbors who helped without being asked. "The grocery store gift card will help with formula and food," Robert said as he prepared to leave.